Hello and welcome to podcast 38 of CinemaVerse Podcasts. This is the first podcast that is going to be released on a audio network such as Spotify and all of those. So I thought, what better way to start off the audio experience, and especially since I'm not going to be re-uploading the previous 37 podcasts that we have done, then doing a ranking of all of our main reviewed movies and a few of the tournament winners that I know both me and my co-host for today, Nebi, have seen. Now, before we get into it, Nebi, man, uh, you're back. We
Hello.
haven't done a podcast in a little bit. How you doing?
First, I want to say thank you for having me. I know there's gonna be a lot of new reviewers in this podcast. I'm doing all right. It's a slow day, but we're gonna start moving fast with this podcast.
All right. Now, right before, Nebi brought up a really good question that I have thought a good bit about, and I really want to see where he lies on this spectrum. Nebi, what kind of now that we're at home, what kind of movie watcher or even show watcher are you? Are you active, passive? How much do you really pay attention to the movies and shows that you watch on a day-to-day basis?
Usually, when I get actually type of questions, I want to make sure we can define the terms both the same way. So, how do you define, acting and acting?
Now, okay, I'll start off by saying I personally think I'm more of an active movie watcher in that if I'm going to watch a movie or this changes or for sure. So I'll start off with movies. If I'm gonna watch a movie, I am going in full focus on the film. I never just put on something first. I rarely put on something just for it to be kind of in the background, especially if it's a first time viewing. Uh, so I usually go in as active as possible so I can focus on the movie at hand. Since I'm a pretty big movie fan, that's what this entire podcast is about. I try and, stay active with the story, get every beat that I can so I'm not missing out on anything. I try and make sure that I'm keeping up with the characters. I'm more active in that sense rather than passive and which I if I'm being quite frank, I didn't know that there were so many passive I guess media watchers nowadays where, but it makes sense. You get home from a long day at school or you get off of Zoom from a long day at school and you sit down and you just kind of brain is fried. So let's just put something on for it to be there and kind of entertain for a little bit. And definitely there are movies that entertain, there are shows that entertain, but on top of that entertainment, I often go in trying to look for something a bit more tangible that I can take away from the experience. So I try and stay as active as possible throughout. And usually, if I'm watching a movie, still talking about movies, if I'm watching a movie and I start to get a bit bored, I will often just kind of pause it, go let my mind get a break for a little bit and then see if I come back. And then if I'm still bored, that's how I know the movie's not that good. But if usually when I do come back with uh, like I was watching The Father the other day, a new movie that came out is one of the Best Picture nominees. Now I watched it. I'm not necessarily saying I was bored, but I watched it right after school, and about halfway through, about the 50-minute mark, my brain was a bit fried. So I paused it because I could feel myself kind of drifting away. So I went out, I went to the bathroom, splashed some water on my face, came back, and then I watched the rest. And I feel that decision made it a much better experience for me. Now, before I get into like what I think shows wise, what kind of viewer I am, kind of off of the definition that I've kind of given, I went into some other stuff. What kind of at least movie watch? Let's start off with movies. What kind of movie watcher do you think you are, Nebi?
Well, based off, I would say I'm active in the terms that I want to get an experience from it. I'm paying attention. I'm not doing something else while I'm watching the movie or like
Mm-hmm.
show. I never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I care about the show or movie, but I don't like to think too hard. Like I just don't want to bother myself, and I kind of I'm saying that in a weird way. It's like I think I told you like there was a period of my life where I just did not watch movies because
I
I
feel
done it
like
now.
you're saying period in your life as in this was like 30 years ago. This is like last summer.
That's
Like this, I remember you came back or not came back, but you came to me on like a Monday, and then you're like, this was the Monday after you watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You're like, they have revived my love for movie. They have revived movies for me. I was like, all right,
100%.
okay, all
Yeah,
right, good.
yeah. I don't. It was just like I keep like seeing the movie and like I'm kind of critiquing it while I'm going along. I'm like I'm getting bored. I'm getting tired. I'm like, why did they do this? Why did they do that? And then nowadays it's like I hate doing that. And my brain kind of automatically does it. So now what I do is I prefer to watch movies or shows that I care about while I'm about to go to sleep, like around 10 p.m. And
Mhm.
that way I'm laying in my bed and I'm watching it. And that's so much more enjoyable than like I think watching it in the daytime when you're just your brain's too active. That's just my
That's
view.
interesting because now going into shows and I said you earlier, like first time movie viewing. That's how I usually am, like very active, trying to get as much as I can. When it comes to both, well, if it's the first time watching the show, like right now, I'm in the process of watching Breaking Bad. I'm still active. Like I'm trying to, keep my attention on the screen, make sure I'm getting all the plot points, so that later on in the show, I'm not missing anything. Or, usually when it comes to long running shows, like this or like a One Piece or, uh, even just like simple, maybe like 5 season, 6 season shows like Community, which I know both me and you love. It I find that it matters to pay attention because there are recurring jokes, recurring plots, recurring, especially with Breaking Bad, recurring characters that if you missed out on earlier, you just don't get the full effect later on. And especially if it's my first time watching, I try and stay as active as possible. But if it is a rewatch, it depends. Like I I like to rewatch stuff. I am on Letterboxd. Go follow me there. Link will be in the description. But I found they have statistics that show you how much of your stuff is rewatches. I think like 40 to 50%, maybe even like half of my views are rewatches, especially when it comes to movies. Right now, you just saw me. I was rewatching The Departed. And usually when I'm rewatching stuff like that, I either am active and like I'm trying to see, hey, is there anything new I pick up on? But most likely I have it on the side, and it has half my attention while I'm doing some sort of work with the other half. And that's not exactly what passive means because I guess I'm still active in some sense, but I'm not passive in the sense that just lay back, turn your mind off, and just have something to play and entertain you. But I do find myself kind of laying back a little bit on the active side if I'm rewatching something, even shows rewatching, like especially comedy shows like Community, like that will get like 20% of my attention. It'll still make me laugh, but I don't pay as much attention on a regular basis to those. Now, how about you? For shows, is it the same? You just kind of nowadays you did you ever lose your hope in shows as you kind of did for movies? And is there anything that like revived you in that case, or were you always kind of cool with shows?
Um, I was watching animes back then still. I was watching Naruto. So I guess anime was, what made me like shows. To be
Mhm.
honest, I think yeah, knows this, but like I don't like live action shows anymore. Bro. Straight up, just straight up. I just don't like. I mean,
I
I don't
do
not
not
like. I
understand
just
you,
I
bro.
don't think they compare at all to like
I
Attack on Titan.
I can totally. I mean, I can't speak to the same extent as you, because I haven't seen as much anime. I think the only anime I've seen in full is Death Note. I plan on watching Attack on Titan, but I definitely get like, especially with animation, there's just more, like quite literally, there's more you can do by drawing stuff with unlimited imagination than you have with live action stuff. But CGI does help out with that nowadays.
Yeah, maybe it's also. To be honest, I haven't really seen too many live action shows. To be frank.
Bro, live action sucks. I haven't really seen many live action shows if I'm being quite this dude.
I mean, I've seen some really good live action like Sherlock Holmes and Community.
Yeah,
But
and
other than
there's
that, and yeah, that's
I always
maybe.
have that too where if I make a statement like that, I'm always thinking kind of psychoanalytic, but I haven't seen as much of this as I have this. Like I remember a few months back, I I shared with you like my all-time greats list. We were just talking through and I was showing you my list. Uh and I realized like of those movies that a lot of people consider to be all-time greats, I am more keen on putting the ones that I've rewatched the most really high up. And even with the list that the ranking that we're doing today, I I'm sure now that I'm looking at it, a lot of the ones that I have higher up are the ones that I've rewatched the most. And there's something about that where every time you rewatch a movie, you're gaining something out of it every single time. So you just spent more time with this thing, so of course you're gonna like it more than you will with something that you've only seen once. Uh, but, but
But then again, you're also more likely to rewatch what you like. Oh,
yeah. That's also another part of it. Now, do you have any more comments on the what kind of moviegoer you are? Also, viewers, go ahead. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, comment down what kind of moviegoer you are. Passive, active. If you have a whole other definition that we didn't even cover, go ahead, let us know. But Nebi, before we
mhm.
take up too much time, you have anything else before we move on to our rankings?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like by the way you're defining active and passive, I'd say I'm active, but as in like I'm paying attention. But just like I guess brain active, you know what I mean? Like I'm not like that's just how to explain it.
Yeah, it's weird because especially going back to like all-time great movies. I know you don't watch them as often as I do, but there's this idea of like going into a Godfather, right? You're
Uh,
going in, and for a movie to be all-time great, it has to like teach you something to an extent, or at least I think that an all-time great movie will often teach you something or change you in some way or allow for you to get deeper insight into some topic. So if you are going to something like that, I don't think you're really allowed to be passive. Like if you go into The Godfather, I know Nebi you haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure how passive of a watcher you can be going into The Godfather, knowing the amount of lore around it and how the just like the high praise that everybody has for it. You just can't go into it as a passive viewer. You're almost like predetermined to be an active viewer in cases like that. But
yeah.
hey, maybe we might return to this. It's actually a pretty good conversation. It's a good topic that might warrant its own podcast one day. But for now, let's get into the main topic, which is ranking the reviewed movies of the CinemaVerse podcast so far, and to make it an even number, even 15. That is definitely an odd number, but you know what I mean. Just to make it kind of like that round number of a 15, I added in of the tournament style podcast that we do, March Madness bracket style podcast. I added in 3 or 4 of those winners, all of the ones that Nebi's seen pretty much. Now, Nebi, when it comes to just
Mhm.
normal reviews, you have been a part of every single review podcast, right? I'm pretty sure. We have done 12 so far.
Mhm.
Now, we've done all of the Harry Potters, which I realized as I was putting this together, Harry Potter takes up like 56% of the list. This podcast is kind of serving a dual purpose. This will also be our conclusion pretty much to the Harry Potter series that we did a while back, which audio listeners, you can go back to YouTube to check that out. But this is also kind of serving as that because we never did our final rankings. We never did that all together, or we never revisited it. So kind of a dual purpose there. But we did all the Harry Potters, and we have also reviewed Goodfellas, in which we had a whole month of Goodfellas, pretty long conversation. Rashomon, there were 2 episodes on that podcast 18 and 19. The Disaster Artist, podcast 14 and 15. And the first ever movie review that we did is the one, the only, The Room. That's podcast 13. On top of that, I brought in 3 of our tournament winners in Spider-Man Far From Home, which won the Spider-Man tournament brackets in episode 2 all the way back maybe like July of 2020. And then 2 of our winners from our most rewatchable podcast, which was originally a tie. To clarify, Rush Hour like officially won it, but I brought in both Rush Hour and The Big Lebowski because Nebi's seen it, and I decided to omit the winner from the both of the most entertaining podcasts, which are A Quiet Place and Inglorious Bastards. Two pretty good movies that I'm sure would have, at least one of them would have been pretty high on my list. Now, Nebi, how was it putting together your list with this group, which is, aside from Harry Potter, fairly diverse?
Um, to be frank, kind of easy in that I have strong opinions on some of these movies.
And yeah, I found it, given that we've done at like pretty long, we've had long conversations about all of these films. I found it fairly easy to go back and put them all together and rank them. Of course, there are some places where I wasn't sure if there's, should this be higher than that? Should Rush Hour really be higher than Chamber of Secrets? Should Rush Hour be lower than all the Harry Potter movies, which is higher? I don't like. There that was all an example. I don't think I actually had that conversation, but or that thought. Well, I did for two of them actually, with Rush Hour and something else. But we'll get there. But since we've had conversations on all of these, I found it fairly simple to do.
Yeah,
Now, yeah, go
yeah, I was saying I agree in that. My yeah, I just agree.
ahead. All right. Now,
And then what
I mean, we don't really need to have much conversation around them now, just broad, because let's get into our list. Now, at number 15, we can go back and forth. I'll start off for this one. And the thing is, I feel like this is an obvious answer for number 15. Like, obvious, both of us should have this at 15.
Yeah,
But thinking back to the podcast, I remember the way that you were speaking of this movie was not like at the lowest of levels that it probably should be spoken about, where I think you were looking at it as a bad movie and you got enjoyment out of it. Of course, I also got enjoyment out of that, but it depends on how you're ranking them, just out of enjoyment or just like quality wise. And for me, it's kind of a bit of both. I did a bit of enjoyment, preference, quality, it's a list. But I mean, at 15, I have The Room. Uh, what do you have at 15, Nebi?
well, it's like if I was gonna rate it off enjoyment, just straight up, I'll probably even rank it higher than The Big Lebowski, in my opinion. But I rated it as just a movie, and maybe I had this false pretext because like I knew what it was supposed to be. Oh, I knew what people saw it as, and then
I
but
think everybody at this point, everybody knows what The Room is before going into The Room. Uh, I have really been urging to rewatch this with some friends though. Uh,
well,
it, it's
yeah,
been months, maybe like 8 months now since we saw this.
yeah,
I would like to rewatch The Room with some friends. Now,
yeah,
you have The Room at 15 too?
yeah.
Okay, so that I felt that
No,
was
I
the
do.
obvious. Now from here, I expect our list to diverge a great amount. Now you
Nice.
go ahead and give your 14.
I had a really hard time with this, to be frank. And you ready for it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I like this movie, but I'm just gonna say Rashomon. But
Rashomon.
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
it was good though.
That is an interesting choice because I think this might be like amongst the film snobs, you would be destroyed for having Rashomon that low.
It's not.
Uh,
I mean,
it's just genuinely regarded as just an all-time great movie, or
it
just
would be a bad thing
like
for the film industry if this movie was high, because that shows that we didn't improve as a society and as a film community.
that's interesting. That's an interesting point. Like comparing Rashomon to current day stuff. Now, quality wise, I feel that's low. Just like you said, like you like the movie. I want like just for a notice. I think I just like enjoy every single movie that we're gonna talk about today. I feel like at least the first time I watched it, I enjoyed all of them. I think from this point on, from 14 on, all the movies are at least watchable. Like I can rewatch them and I'll find some sort of enjoyment out of them. Actually, I guess all of them are like watchable because even 15 is watchable, even The Room is. But I guess what I'm trying to say is all of the movies from 14 to 1 are average to above average to great to amazing.
You-
Now at 14, Nebi, please don't kill me for this one. I have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Or
I, that's not bad. That's not bad for me. I understand.
because yeah, I think the big thing that had me put it this low is the pacing of the first one,
Mhm.
because I went back to it not too long ago, and I found myself almost falling asleep throughout the first third. Well, after we leave Harry Potter with his family or his surrogate family,
Mhm.
about 50 minutes from there to the climax, I almost fell asleep. It's
That's absolutely insane, bro. For
it's
me, I
it's still
cannot.
pretty. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's just not as it's there's a lot of variance throughout here. I realized for once again, good movie.
Mhm.
Well, I guess I would say average movie. I, maybe good. I would have to rewatch it again to really get that, but I think it is at 14 on my list. And actually, I'll go again. We're gonna go in back and forth in like a zigzag kind of order. Now, this was difficult on which one of these should be lower because they're both Harry Potter movies.
Mhm.
And at 13, I think what we had said as the lowest in the original series is Order of the Phoenix, which I can. It's just I find Order of the Phoenix to be the most forgettable. Aside from the ending, I I, I just don't
Order
remember
of the
much.
Phoenix.
And now
That is
Nebi,
absolutely outrageous.
Nebi,
Outrageous, yeah. But
what is your 13?
the Harry Potter community is bigger than in the entire film community. Straight up, I
Uh,
come after you.
I must disagree,
I
given that the Harry Potter community is probably a part of the film community. It's got like a bit of an overlap there.
because the Harry Potter got books too,
Or
and
you
then
just
they
mean like Harry Potter? I thought okay. I mean,
oh yeah, only the
maybe.
movies though.
I mean, everybody, most people like films. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
but Order of the Phoenix, it's just low down for me. It's the least rewatchable of them to me too. Even with Philosopher's Stone being unbearably boring. Order of the Phoenix also, it cuts back on his surrogate family time. I'm gonna call them surrogate family because I can remember their names. Is it Dudley's? I don't know.
Dudley, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
they
no,
don't. That's
that's one of the
aside from
villains.
a certain film that is coming up in like a very long time. I think that the absence of them like really hurts this one.
Hmm,
Now, Nebi, what's your 13?
very weird take. I just thought of this idea like this point though. In Marvel movies, maybe the reason I just don't like them is because they always make jokes, and it's like it's never like you're embracing a world like Harry Potter. But that's not the point of this interview. I mean, podcast.
Oh,
Never
that's
mind.
something that I'm just not even gonna comment on because I'll comment quickly because Marvel's jokes. Okay, so do you know who Seth Rogen is?
Yep.
All
Of
right,
course.
Seth Rogen said that Marvel movies have pretty much taken the place of comedies nowadays, where in the early 2000s, the 2000 early 2010s, you had like the big comedies, you had the super bads of the world, you had the This Is the Ends, right? You had the
Huh?
22, 21 Jump Streets, and as those began to decline, you remember Nathan Zed had made a video on this. Uh, the the Marvel universe started to, you know, incline, increase, and it's the Marvel take has taken the place as like the major place where people go to get comedy, and I think that's one of the reasons why it is so successful because it is pretty lightweight at times. It's something where you can go in, get the action, get the comedy, you'll leave, and it will stick in your mind for a little bit. It's not as impactful as some other movies. Uh, well, some of them are, but I think that the comedy is a necessary part of Marvel movies, and I personally like it.
I don't know, but that's everything they do. They do it in every movie, and people are making the distinction between DC and Marvel, as in DC being more serious, and That's one thing I appreciate.
Which one is more successful though?
Well, which one has been around longer? Actually,
I mean, well, technically
Batman.
DC's been around since
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
I mean, I like the Dark Knight movies a lot
And
more than probably any Marvel movie, except for the one maybe.
I'll say that for the last two. I'm not the biggest fan of Batman Begins. I think it's okay. The Dark Knight is just, the Dark Knight is the Dark Knight. I don't need to say anything on that. Dark Knight Rises, I think, is a bit underrated. I enjoy it. I think it's up there. You know my love for Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, Guardians of the Galaxy. Marvel has put out some great products. We have a whole bunch of content about Marvel. Let's get back to the list. Uh, go ahead, Nebi. What's your number 13?
Alright, my number 13. This is a hard one, bro. I don't want to have to do this, but I'm gonna have to do it for at least this one, to be honest. The Big Lebowski. I said it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you say you didn't like love it. Like you liked the movie, so or you just saw it as good. I expected this. I expected it to be low on your list. What I am a bit worried about is that your entire top 8 is all Harry Potter movies. I'm a bit worried about that.
Exactly.
But all right, what's your number 12?
My number 12 at this point is damn. It's really hard. I don't know which one it should be.
See, you're starting to contradict the point you made earlier about this list being super easy.
No, but when you see like what is between, because right now it's between. To be honest, the first,
Oh,
second.
okay. I think I get what you're saying. Where it's like, I think placement wise, it's like, if you were making a tier list, it would have been very easy. But to like, is this one better than this? Like one into like two movies that are paired together, you don't know which one to put over the other. In that sense, it's hard. But like in the overall scheme of like placement, I don't think it's that hard. Okay, number
So
12, boy,
I'm
Nebi.
just going to say Harry Potter
Oh,
and the what is it called? I'm saying Chamber of Secrets, but I just say that.
Chamber of Secrets. Wow,
Well,
I I was genuinely worried that all Harry Potter would be in the top 8, but I see that you've humbled yourself. Why Chamber of Secrets at the very bottom?
At the very bottom.
Or like
Just
at
like
the
that.
bottom of your Harry Potter list, I guess.
I mean, I like the movie. I like all of them, but it was really between the first Harry Potter and the second Harry Potter one.
Mm.
And I can't recall as much like things I could like really take away from the second one. I guess there was great Quidditch. I don't even know if there was Quidditch in that one.
No, this is where like the first big Quidditch match happened.
Yeah, man. Compared to the first one with Dursley's, Hagrid, introduction. Oh my, Dumbledore.
All right, nah, I mean, I'm intrigued to see what you have Philosopher's Stone. So for me at number 12, I have something a movie that we've talked a great deal about because we've done so many Marvel podcasts in Spider-Man Far From Home. Uh, I, I not to get too repetitive because I always say this. Far From Home is so low, or not. I said 12 because when I did rewatch it, I just didn't find it that interesting. And since rewatching it, I rewatched Homecoming afterwards. Homecoming, I think, is exponentially better. Homecoming, I think, is a genuinely great Marvel movie and just a good movie. And Far From Home is a great, like, it was good in the moment. Leaving it, I thought it was, I personally put it as like my favorite after leaving the theaters. Rewatching it, not as great, but it's still pretty good. Now, at 11, my good. Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna let you go to number 11 real quick because I have made a technical error.
Right.
Go, Nebi.
For me, I'm gonna say. Man, I actually have a face in between two movies, but I'm gonna say it is. The thing is, I'm gonna say one. Okay, I'm gonna say one that I would rather rewatch and enjoy. Okay, based off that, I'm gonna say Goodfellas, bro. Damn, I. This is just so hard for me, bro. Cause yeah, give me.
Okay, so I was
I'm
gonna
sorry.
do a whole bit where I just like I pretend as if I was gonna mute you and pretend like you weren't here. But then I remember this is gonna be an audio podcast too.
Bruh.
This man just put Goodfellas at number 11. Yeah, you know what? My,
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I liked it.
I,
I liked it,
I mean,
but
yeah,
it wasn't my
we've already said we like all these, but Goodfellas at 11. That's an interesting choice. Now, what I remember saying towards the end of the Goodfellas podcast, which, if I'm not mistaken, was like 6 or 7 hours in total. I that is 6 or 7 hours. We talked about Goodfellas for 6 or 7 hours. I had that much to say about Goodfellas, and the Harry Potter in total was about 6 or 7 hours. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that all of Harry Potter is worse than Goodfellas. I that's a difficult claim to make, but and also we did Goodfellas much later in our podcasting career, and I had Harry Potter was kind of an on the spot thing that we did, so there wasn't as much prep that went into Harry Potter than Goodfellas, but just that statistic should like just let you know how absurd this placement is. Goodfellas at number 11. Wow. Okay.
Number one. I would say.
We'll reflect at the end.
Uh,
I'll see. Okay. But I found my number 11. I had for some reason written Order of the Phoenix again here, but at number 11 I have Half Blood Prince. Uh, my I just I like the adventure aspect that was to Half Blood Prince. Right before the Deathly Hallows, it's often like really overlooked, but I definitely wouldn't say it's like as great as the others. The spoilers, if you want to skip this spoiler for some reason, if you have not seen Harry Potter, go ahead skip like 20 seconds future. The whole Dumbledore's death thing, I think that's one of the greatest sequences in any Harry Potter movie.
finally,
Uh,
you have spin fact.
but it's once again, it's a difficult choice to make. Like I'm putting this at 11, but I like it a lot.
The
And
house was so great. I'm thinking about it. Oh my God.
now at number 10, I have Chamber of Secrets. And this was another one where it was
Whoa!
it was super hard. What do
You
you
put
mean,
Half
whoa?
Blood Prince below Chamber
Yeah,
of
it
Secrets.
was super duper hard between Chamber of Secrets and Half Blood Prince. I wasn't sure which one to put back and forth. And this is one of those cases where this is for now. Like this could change at any given moment. But
Mhm.
for now, I'm putting Chamber of Secrets above Half Blood Prince for the sole reason that when like the sequencing of it, because last time I watched Harry Potter, I binged it all, right?
Huh?
Watching Chamber of Secrets after Philosopher's Stone, to me, it was like a big relief because Philosopher's Stone I found almost not unbearably, but I found it very boring. Or I found it to drag on. I'm gonna stop saying boring because boring is just not the right word. I found it to drag on. Chamber of Secrets I think is much better paced. You get to like I love second entries. Like the Dark Knight. I I'm gonna get killed for saying this. I kind of like Thor: The Dark World. I like Guardians of the Galaxy too. I like all these movies where you know the characters and now you can go in and just be with them and you know their characteristics, you know everything about them. You get to go in, and I like that aspect of Chambers. I like that
Are you saying you
aspect
like
of a lot
sequels?
of sequels. Yeah, I love sequels. That's why I was very surprised that when I went back to Far From Home, I didn't like it as much. But sequels are probably like my favorite things, man.
Hmm.
Do you not like sequels, Nebi?
No, I mean usually people are like, don't make a sequel of this
Uh,
classic. Which I understand.
no. People say don't make remakes.
Oh, you right.
Now,
You right.
very few people say don't make sequels. People might say don't make sequels to like old movies, like uh, the new Coming to America. The original Coming to America came out in the 1980s. The new Coming to America came out in 2021. Now,
Oh,
the new one is not a bad movie. It's a
well,
it's
he's not
a M
to America.
movie.
I mean, went back to Africa. That's
Yeah,
what. Uh,
but it's and even then that's technically a sequel, but essentially it's a remake. It's nowhere it's a direct follow-up, but given that much time, it's barely a sequel anymore. That's kind of what they mean. But or just like remaking. What remakes did they have they made actually, Nebi? I can't think of any for some reason.
Remakes?
Hmm.
Ghostbusters?
Asbestos?
I said Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah, the Ghostbusters remake, like that kind of stuff they don't want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now,
I don't
Nebi,
even see the original Ghostbusters.
what is your number 10?
My number 10 is this is actually very difficult. Dang, how did it get to this point so quickly? Alright. For me, my number 10 is gonna be, I'm gonna say Spider-Man Far From Home. And
Okay.
it was a great movie, in my opinion. Actually, I didn't like Edmonds to others, to be honest. I didn't like, to be honest, I only like one scene where Spider-Man was crying at the end. And that's pretty much it for me.
You only liked or you didn't
No,
like?
that was probably my favorite part. I mean, I didn't really care for, the Zendaya and Holland.
I still, Nebi, you have some very unique takes. Like you're one of the few people that I've heard say that you don't like the Zendaya Tom Holland relationship. Like, once again, Far From Home, a bit lower on the list, but I mean, I think they have good chemistry, and I think they do. I like the relationship.
I don't know. This feels weird.
Are you excited for the new Spider-Man movie?
Oh, I heard of this, going to be a whole crossover thing. Of course, I'm going to be super hyped.
All right. Now number 9.
Alrighty, let's see. I just said Spider-Man, so for the next one, I'm going to say, what was it? I already said Goodfellas, so I'm gonna say The Disaster Artist. Well, wait, what's the third Harry Potter movie?
That is Prisoner of Azkaban.
Is that the one with Sirius Black? No, yeah.
Yeah, that's like the one where with Sirius Black is introduced. The one with the trains, the bus scene.
Yeah, I'm gonna say The Disaster Artist.
Now, that's surprising to me. The Disaster Artist is slow. You really like The Disaster Artist. You said The Disaster Artist is better than. Well, I don't think you like this one, but you said it's better than Gone Girl, which I believe is a pretty great movie. You said The Disaster Artist.
I can't believe. Oh, you're putting Harry Potter up against everything, though. All you have to do is happening.
Hey, that is true. I know how much of a big Harry Potter fan you are. I mean, even me, Harry Potter is fairly high up. So, or some Harry Potters. But
let me. Can I switch it out there? I actually might want to switch it out.
Which one?
With Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix.
Okay, Order of the Phoenix. I see you've come to
your senses. Order of Phoenix? I don't.
That's what I'm saying. It's the least memorable to me. That's the one where at the end, that's the one with the battle between Dumbledore and. That's the thing. I think the ending is great. Everything else, not that great.
No, I'm starting to remember more and more. But let's not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, but Order of the Phoenix. What is mine? My number 9 is. It might shock you actually, because I have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Actually, not Part 1. I thought I was gonna get a big reaction because I know you loved it. Part 2.
I just have weird opinions. In my opinion.
See, that's the thing. I feel my opinions are usually closer to just the general consensus, or usually are, which is weird to you because your opinions are quite frankly just out there. Like you are putting Goodfellas at number 11 on any list is just out there for most people. So that's what my opinions look weird to you because your opinions are just weird to everybody else. But they're respectable. That's why I like having you on the podcast. You bring insight. Now, at number 8, we're actually starting to get into the higher ups now because this is the halfway point. At number 8, Actually, I have the Disaster Artist at 8, and I'm starting to think. Do you also have the Disaster Artist at 8?
Maybe.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 matches now with the Disaster Artist and The Room. Now you can go back to we did 2 podcasts on the Disaster Artist. What is that number? Podcast 14 and 15. They're on YouTube if you want to go back, get more of our in-depth thoughts. So it was a very enjoyable film, especially after watching The Room. Now, I still am saying I want to get the perspective of somebody that's never seen The Room on the Disaster Artist. I'm not sure how to approach it if you've never seen The Room, because I think the Disaster Artist in and of itself is just a good movie. It's like a good friendship film, or like like aspirations, like it's like hope, like how do you go along your career, like the mythos of Hollywood, all of that. I think it does all that pretty well, and it's a funny film, and it's at number 8, which is pretty good. But there are 7 films that both of us think are better than it.
It's also like knowing about the lore and about the person who made it and everything.
Yeah, Tommy was that he is a interesting character, and we posed this question both in The Room and the Disaster Artist. But where in the hell did that $6 million that paid for The Room come from? I think we will just never know.
And I have another question that I think people might want to, fun
Mhm.
question they might want to put in the comments. What is Tommy Wiseau doing right now? What is
That
he?
is a good question. What is he up to? Has he made a movie since The Room? Well, I know he has. He's made a few, but has he made a good movie?
Oh,
Well, aside from The Room, obviously, The Room is just amazing. But Nebs, you're number 7.
why did I just close my notebook? My number 7, if you didn't know, is
That was the sound of a notebook.
I don't want to have to do this bad. Okay, let's see. Yeah. What is the fourth Harry Potter movie?
That is Goblet of Fire, the tournament one.
What is the Harry Potter and the House? Okay, you know. It's the harder one. What is the third one? Order of Phoenix? I already said that.
Third one is Prisoner of Azkaban. We are
What?
really
What happened?
Nebby, just say what your number 7 is. You just say it.
I don't know if it's true though. What happened in the first Harry Potter? In the part 1.
Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I remember at the beginning of that one, that's the one where we start off with Hermione erasing her parents' mind, and then they just throughout the thing they're just going on the journey. They're going out to find the whatchamacallums.
But what was like coolest thing I had?
Spoiler once again, skip forward. This is the one where Dobby died. Is it Dobby?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dobby died. I'm pretty sure they got in prison in this one. This is where the bank. It's either this one or the next one where the bank stuff happens.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is where Voldemort finds the.
Yeah, and this is the one where Ron is being a bit of a B word. Ron is being kind of moody. I think he was on his period.
The story of like the Deathly Hallows really.
Yeah, that is.
I'll say this one, the first one. Even though I really like this movie, and I don't know if this is 100% my opinion on it. I'll say the part 1 is what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. Now, if you to get maybe like 20% more of his opinion, you can go back to the podcast for Deathly Hallows Part 1. That's probably podcast 35. Now, looking at this, like, of course, the ordering is different, but for the most part, aside from I think you have The Big Lebowski and I have Half-Blood Prince, we have pretty much the same movies, and especially now that I say at number 7, Rashomon, which once again you can go back to the podcast if you want to hear more about it, episodes 18 and 19. But Rashomon is like it's a deep film. It's
Yeah, you
enjoyable.
know though, like you would have, but don't
It's
even look at it and like what it is like for its
yeah,
time at this
like
time.
just even watching it. What do we say? It was 80 years after it was made. I think
Mhm.
it was very enjoyable as we watched it. Now we did say Rashomon's pacing. It's not necessarily bad, but it does make it feel super long. One of the reasons why we chose to watch Rashomon rather than another Kurosawa film like Seven Samurai is because it's only 90 minutes, right? Whereas other Kurosawa films are like freaking 3 hours and 30 minutes long. But either way, Rashomon felt like it was 3 hours, and that goes in with a lot of things. It was packing in so much on just like the deepness level, what is truth, all of that. It was packing in a lot about Japan after World War II. It was packing in a lot, so it might have felt longer. But even just pacing wise, there were like a whole 5 minutes where we just followed a guy walking. I personally, for some reason, found that very very interesting. Nobody else did, but it's a great movie. I definitely think people should watch it. If you're scared of black and white films, and if you're scared, this actually goes 2 levels deep. Actually, I just realized that if people don't want to watch, if they don't want to read subtitles, and if they don't like black and white, they're gonna have to get over 2 humps. But
Yeah,
it's a good watch, and even though he has it at 14, I think Nebi liked it too. If we
I agree.
so
Yeah,
now we're getting into number 6. Okay, we're up there now. At 6, I think this actually might make it official depending on what your number 6 is, meaning that we have all the same, like 15 to 6, and our top 5 are all the same films too. I have The Big Lebowski, which I think is one of the funniest movies of all time. Uh, and it is a great movie to rewatch. That's why we're taking it from the rewatchables. A lot has been said about The Big Lebowski. It is just a hilarious film. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like in 7th grade. I remember it's weird. I don't think anybody likes it. Like no, nobody like thinks it's like amazing on a first watch, or very few people do. Nebi, I know you've only seen it once. I promise you, once you rewatch it, it will get better with time.
fine. That's fine. I don't know. My next movie you looking for? You have
Sixth out
six
of 15.
is we heading into that territory. Rush Hour.
Wow. I
Uh,
wasn't sure where Rush Hour was going to fall on your list. It's I really had no idea where you're gonna put Rush Hour, but 6 I think is a pretty good placement for Rush Hour. Uh,
no,
what's your
I'm
number?
probably underrating it to be frank. To be frank,
Underrating or overrating?
underrating.
Maybe. But
What about
I
I'm
mean,
saying what else I would put over it?
okay. What do
No,
you
I
have at
mean
number 5? What do you have at 5?
I have the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Now that is low in my estimation,
Oh,
but
really?
very low in my estimation. But hey,
Oh, I
wait,
don't know, man.
what do you have at solo?
I what?
Is it the time travel stuff?
Huh?
This is the one where they did the time traveling, and I know you don't like your movies time travel.
Yeah, I do not. I'm not a big fan of it, but this one might be one of the only movies where time travel. I have no problems with it. It's perfect, to be honest.
That's crazy because
Um,
like I feel this is one of the ones with like the biggest flaws in the time traveling. Like
what?
she
No.
has the she does the time traveling with the necklace thing, right? What's it called? Or like
Yeah.
the stopwatch. Like it's like the whole idea of if she had that, or if that exists, why not use it more? It's like uh I know there are reasons for this, and fairly good reason, like concrete reasons, which I think the film theorist or film whatever the channel is called, they made a video about it a while back, which
Uh-huh.
kind of answers it. I don't even think it's a theory, quite frankly. I think it's just a fact. But
Uh-huh.
when it comes to Lord of the Rings, it's like the whole eagles at the end thing,
Uh-huh.
where why not use them the entire time? It's kind of like that same
Oh,
parallel was like,
yeah.
if you had this time travel thing, why don't you just use it all along? And that's what
Yeah.
happens with a lot of stuff. It's like now that the MCU has time travel, why don't you just use that all the time? But
Or like since they have like other superheroes, like why don't they just come or something? You know?
yeah. But that's just the general problem or like a general issue that comes up that kind of goes into like you need to suspend some of your disbelief in order to truly enjoy this.
No, I just like tell myself that it's destroyed once you use it, so it's not there anymore.
All right.
I
Hey
just
man, you tell
like that.
yourself what you got to tell yourself.
I write that in the line somewhere, and I forget about it.
At number 5, I have Deathly Hollows Part 2, which
Outrageous.
is a great conclusion. Great final battle. A lot about it is great. I'm sure I have flaws with it. I think that looking back at our Harry Potter thing, as I said, it was more of an on the spot thing. I think as we went on, because we all recorded in one sitting, right?
Mhm.
We genuinely we got easier with the scoring as we went. So by the time we got to Deathly Hallows, we were just giving it 10s for every single category. And
It
like I
is.
was looking back, I looked
Perfect
even like
movie.
Prisoner of Azkaban, right? It was at number it was the 3rd film, right? So we were being a bit more harsh on it. But I was listening back. I was really pushing for us to give it higher scores, but we just got high. Even Deathly Hallows Part 1, we gave pretty high scores, and you can see by our placements, we don't think it's at that great. Like we think it's pretty great, but like not like as high as we gave it. And I'll get like later on at the end, I will say what we have given the score to every one of it and how it's ranked so far, just in general. But I realized that we just gave it higher and higher scores, and
Well,
it's not necessarily the most accurate score that we gave it, and we might need to revisit that at some point in the future.
mm,
Now at
well,
number 4, now this like genuinely broke my heart because I like as you said about it's like very hard to place this because it's like personal preference. This is one of my favorite films ever. I've rewatched it the most. But then again, like quality wise, I'm not sure if it's like it's great. I'm not sure if it's above the rest. And I had to bring myself down to put Rush Hour at number 4. Just as a classic. Like it's a classic, man. I can't even I don't even need to say anymore. It's an amazing film. It's one of the funniest. And also, well, I'll get into more of my reason as to why I have it at 4 instead of 3 once I say my number 3. Nebi, what's your number 4?
my number 4 is it's really between two, to be frank. Wait, what? Number 4 already? No.
We have been it goes quickly, man.
No, I think I'm at number 3 though.
Whoa. Did you skip something?
No, I said the first 2 Harry Potters: The Room, Rashomon, The Big Lebowski, Goodfellas, Spider-Man, The Disaster Artist, Order of the Phoenix, Part 1 of Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows, and
All right. So quick change. I not sure if you said it earlier, but at number 11, Nebi is going to put the Philosopher's Stone, the original Harry Potter film, and that moves everything else up one. So Goodfellas is now at 10, Far From Home at 9, Order of the Phoenix at 8, The Disaster Artist is 7, Deathly Hallows Part 1 at 6, Rush Hour at 5, Prisoner of Azkaban at 4, and at this point we're just getting Nebi's Harry Potter rankings. So Nebi, what's your number 3?
my number 3 is Harry Potter and The Order of the Phoenix.
No, you said that.
Great movie. Absolutely.
You said Order
I
of the
said the
Phoenix.
Order of the.
You said
I
Order
mean
of the
Goblet of
Phoenix.
Fire. Goblet of
Okay.
Fire.
At Goblet of Fire, that is a great movie, and guess what? It is also my number 3.
Oh.
I think it's the tournament style of Goblet of Fire that I just love. I love tournament movies. I just love tournaments. We do tournaments on this podcast. There's just something about that competition that brings like just entertainment in and of itself. And now I can say the reason why I have Goblet of Fire over Rush Hour is because I have Goblet of Fire in my top 2 Harry Potter movies. And it's maybe my favorite Harry Potter movie, but Rush Hour. This is like a very technical. It's a technicality. It's not that good of a reason either, but just Rush Hour. I'm not even sure if Rush Hour 1 is my favorite of the 3 Rush Hours. I love Rush Hour 3. I love Rush Hour 2. I love all 3 of the movies. Rush Hour 3 and Rush Hour 2 might be one of those 2 might be my favorite. But I know for sure Goblet of Fire is my favorite Harry Potter movie, or at least second favorite, which is a very weird reason, but that's why I put it over. Now,
Yeah,
well, I might as well just say my number 2, which is Prisoner of Azkaban, which amazing film. I think that's one of the longer Harry Potter podcasts we did. Just go back and listen to our Prisoner of Azkaban episode 29. It's on YouTube. Just an amazing movie, well directed. Time travel stuff, I never really cared like a whole bunch about that, like, unless it's like a glaring obvious plot hole. I just let it be. I just like the concept of time travel, and I'm willing to just kind of let it be. Going back to our active passive thing, I guess I'm a bit more passive on that front. But what's your number 2, Nebi and Yabo?
number 2 is one of the most beautiful, well put together movies of all time. Because you'll see, I'm not gonna say it first off, Half Blood Prince. The ending is great, we all know that. But I think
Yeah.
one thing you might have overlooked is the relationship that goes a lot deeper, not only with Harry and Hagrid, and like Harry and a lot more of his professors,
Mhm.
but Harry and his friends, Ron and Hermione. They go on like these little like fun stuff. They go to the dance. I'm pretty sure it was in this movie, but they also, and then Harry's working with the potions, and then also with Sirius Black, he becomes really, really prominent. He was already big, but his whole story, you learn about Harry's background. This movie was just great all around, and I want to say thank you, J.K. Rowling, for producing this.
Hey man, thank you, J.K. Rowling. Despite any other remarks that you have made, you are a gem to humanity. Now,
Great.
once again, think it's a good movie. I think the ending is the best part. I don't think the rest is as great as the ending. The ending like just leaves you with like a punch. We had the payoff category there. I think Half Blood Prince is pretty high up because I gave it such a high payoff score. But well, I guess at this point we know what our number ones are. For you, it is Deathly Hallows Part 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Which Nebi, genuine question. Is Deathly Hallows Part 2 the best movie going experience that you've ever had? Like or did you see it in the movie theaters?
I don't think I did. No.
Oh, I thought you did. Huh.
No.
Well, I guess it did
No,
come
I
out back
saw it
like.
on DVD, like, and it was when it
Oh,
was
okay.
when it first came out though. Like, it was super
Because
big.
how big of a or okay, when you saw, is that like the best movie watching experience you've ever had, or is it up there for you at least? Because the way you speak of Deathly Hallows Part 2 as like a conclusion, I think you personally probably think it's better than Endgame, right?
Yeah, definitely better than Endgame.
Uh,
I
this
don't.
this might be
You
a
know what?
difficult question. I personally know the answer. Do you think it's better than Return of the King?
How dare you ask me that question,
Oh, do you mean how dare you in like a easy? It's like that easy or like
No,
that hard?
as
Oh,
in you definitely choose between two
two
amazing.
of the greatest stories ever told. But I personally think it's like, well, given that I put Death Hours Part 2 at number 5 here, I think it's like a pretty big gap between the two. I put Return of the King much higher.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say it. No, just for me specifically though, because
Yeah,
Harry
yeah,
Potter
of course.
was a bigger part of my life, and just
Yeah.
like it was a lot more amazing.
But well, my number 1 is Goodfellas, which we spoke for 7 hours about. So you can go back and check out any of those
Hey,
4.
good
I
fella.
I well,
Yeah.
okay. Before I get in, I'll get in a bit more into my number 1 good, or what I was gonna say. Now, I went ahead and kind of put it into tiers, or like what I think the tiers would be like of the films. And for me, and these are random, like naming wise, at 15, it's just like as a piece of movie, it's utter shit. It's enjoyable. It is very fun to watch, but it's not well made. At number
Wait,
13 and 14, The Room. The Room is not that good.
oh,
The Room
yeah.
is not a good film. It's every single decision that is made is the wrong decision, which
Man.
is hard to do, but it's hilarious. It's enjoyable. Not good though. It's utter shit. Now,
Oh,
number 14 and 13, I think are watchable, Well, my number 14 and 13, the Philosopher's Stone and Order of the Phoenix, not your number 14 and 13. The Philosopher's Stone and Order of the Phoenix are watchable, average to below average films. Now, I think 12 to 10, Far From Home, Half-Blood Prince, and Chamber of Secrets are all like fine, average, maybe good movies, like C plus movies, maybe C plus B minus movies. Now, number 9 to 5, which is Deathly Hallows Part 1, The Disaster Artist, Rashomon, The Big Lebowski, and Deathly Hallows Part 2, I think are movies that I enjoy. I think are great. These are B plus, maybe A minus movies, right? I think Deathly Hallows might go into the next category, actually. Well, yeah, I'll take Deathly Hallows Part 2 off of that category and move it into the next category, which is Deathly Hallows Part 2, Rush Hour, and Goblet of Fire, which are some of my personal favorites, but not necessarily in the next category, which I think Prisoner of Azkaban and Goodfellas are two of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Like, these are just some of the best put together, all-time great, life-changing might be a bit of a stretch, but just amazing films that I've ever seen. Now, I want to focus on that last part. Like, all-time great. Do you think any of these films would land on your all-time great list?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. To be honest, I won't say any of the non-Harry Potter movies for me
Yeah.
probably land on. I mean, maybe Rush Hour, maybe.
Rush Hour, I think, is one of my personal favorite. I think that might be just in my top 10 favorite films ever. But
Oh,
I know that it's like, just technically, it's not the greatest like movie put together.
yeah,
Like, but it's an amazing watch. It's entertaining and it's rewatchable. What
yeah.
more
I
could you
definitely
ask?
agree with you, brother. I'm not really a big fan of. I mean, you showed me a lot of movies that I like. I'm glad I've seen. Yeah, that's a new perspective. But I feel like a lot of these movies are like the movies for critics. I feel like critics are the ones who really say Goodfellas and Rashomon, but
No,
the average
no.
consumer like
I
they.
I okay, I will say Rashomon, maybe. Not necessarily critics, but just like film snobs will say
Yeah.
Rashomon because they're just like, okay, oh my gosh, Akira Kurosawa made this. Oh, he's such a great director. I gotta like this movie. So I like it. You gotta go check. Like, I get it. That
Mhm.
I can understand. Goodfellas, I think, is a genuinely enjoyable, all-time great in general. Like, IMDb is usually the rating of like, what do the general audiences rather than the critics think? IMDb puts Goodfellas in like the top 20. It
Mm.
is just genuinely great. I think you just need to rewatch it. I feel like the fact that the first time you watched it, we had a 7-hour conversation, might have diminished it for you because we talked about it for so much. You might have gotten tired of it. Give it like a few more months and then rewatch it. There's no way you still think it's this low, though.
Yeah, I mean that's a good reason.
Now,
That's a good reason.
recapping our list, Nebs from 15 to 1. He has The Room at 15, Rashomon at 14, The Big Lebowski at 13, Chamber of Secrets at 12, Philosopher's Stone at 11, Goodfellas at 10, Far From Home at 9, Order of the Phoenix at number 8, The Disaster Artist at number 7, Deathly Hollows Part 1 at number 6, Rush Hour at number 5, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban at number 4, Goblet of Fire at number 3, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince at number 2. And at this point, since it's just a Harry Potter list, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 at number 1.
Yeah.
Personally, Yabanek, your host, has 15, The Room, 14, The Philosopher's Stone, 13, Order of the Phoenix, 12, Spider-Man Far From Home, 11, Half-Blood Prince, 10, Chamber of Secrets, 9, Deathly Hallows Part 1, 8, The Disaster Artist, 7, Rashomon, 6, The Big Lebowski, at number 5, Deathly Hallows Part 2, at number 4, Rush Hour. At number 3, Goblet of Fire. At number 2, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And at number 1, Goodfellas. Now, Nebi, before we head off, this is the rating that we have for the 12 movies that we have done like reviews for. Uh, the ranking that we have is The Room at number 12, Sorcerer's Stone, or The Room at number 12 with a 30.3% CinemaVerse score, which is in my estimation, kind of high. And then at number 11, we have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and with 70.6. Now, Nebi,
Yeah.
I wanted to get your perspective on the bottom 3. Or not even the bottom 3. No, the bottom 2, Chamber of Secrets and Sorcerer's Stone. I think both of us think those are kind of like the lower down
Yeah.
of Harry Potter. I want to get your perspective on Goblet of Fire with our rankings being at 75%.
Well, that day.
What crack were we smoking?
Yeah, I remember like we had a hard time remembering it. Like, we kept talking about it, and then
That might be it. And this might, once again, it's like going back to the idea of as we went on, we just gave higher scores, and earlier on we were being a bit harsher. And Goblet of Fire is only the 4th, so we were being kind of harsh on it. And I think the Goblet of Fire was right before we started giving higher scores. But
yeah,
moving on, we have a 76.4% for Disaster Artist, a 78.02% for Rashomon, a 79% CinemaVerse score for Order of the Phoenix, a 84% score for Half-Blood Prince. Goodfellas is only sitting here with an 88.8%, which I think is also absurd, especially since Deathly Hallows Part 1 has an 89.4%. Deathly Hallows Part 2 has a 96.2%, which is the highest. But what I think is the best Harry Potter film, Prisoner of Azkaban, has a 91.2%, which I'm cool with. Now,
yeah.
with all of those statistics and names being said, thank you for watching. This has been episode 38 of CinemaVerse Podcasts and ranking our reviewed movies and some of the tournament winners. Go check out the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, since this will be the first one posted on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Have a good day.